My name is Dr. Melissa Gratias, and I am a productivity specialist. I help overworked and overwhelmed people feel focused, balanced, and successful. I'm an author, blogger, speaker, and coach for productivity issues for clients all over the world. I live in Savannah, Georgia. I have a husband and two grown-ish kids. My son is 15, my daughter is 19. I have lived in Savannah for 6 wonderful years. It's a great place to live. I travel for speaking engagements and client presentations. I have 5 unread emails.
And how many do you anticipate maybe getting in the next hour or so?
I have my email pretty well controlled, so I would be surprised if I got more than 10. We are here today to discuss digital pollution, which is unwanted interruptions caused by technology and those who are using it to put mass communication out there rather than thoughtful, human-centered, targeted communication. Productive people recognize several things. First and foremost is that we cannot, as human beings, try to remember everything that we need to do. We need to download our brains onto task lists and programs that will remember things far better than we ever could. The second thing that productive people do well is decision making. And that is especially true when it comes to email, because I have 5 unread emails in my inbox right now. Those are 5 unmade decisions. A client 2 days ago had over 1,000 unread emails in his inbox. And when I told him that's 1,000 unmade decisions, it sparked a change in him where he wanted to get in there, decide what to keep, decide what to get rid of, and move on with his work. That email is not a job. It's a task. I was born really scattered. I am flighty, fly by the seat of my pants. I think calendars are for people who can't remember stuff, and planning is for those who just aren't spontaneous enough. So I love going on vacation and just picking my route. I want to go there. But when it came to work, that doesn't function well. I ended up having this child that I liked and wanted to see, and I was throwing more and more hours at my problems. And so many of my clients find that that's what they're doing as well. Oh, I can't get to the bottom of this email inbox, I'll just work longer. I can't get to the bottom of this email inbox, I'll just continue to check it all night. And the last thing before I go to bed, I'll check my email. So when I realized that productivity is a skill set, it is not a personality trait, I decided I need to learn this skill set. It took me 8 years to feel like I had a handle on what I needed to do and how I needed to make decisions for my work. It shouldn't have taken 8 years. So I quit my job in corporate America and opened up my consultancy in 2007 so that it wouldn't take my clients 8 years to figure out how to work efficiently and effectively. The official inspiration happened on March 17th of 2007 when I was watching an episode of HGTV where they had these professional organizers helping people with their kitchen or something like that. And I watched these television personalities and I said, I have no interest in kitchens, but I would love to help people at work. I would, because I had been on that journey myself and I didn't even know it was a profession to help people be more effective. So that March 17th is my husband's birthday and St. Patrick's Day. That's why it's so salient to me. And 3 months later, I quit my job. I opened my firm and I have been coaching and training people ever since. I pivoted my own life from haphazard and scattered to systematic, and organized because I was so tired of having what my husband and I called the 5:30 fight. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the 5:30 fight, it is the phone call that inevitably comes at 5:30 from one spouse or the other, deciding / arguing about who gets to work longer and who has to go pick up the child from daycare so they don't put them in baby jail. So it was the continual 5:30 p.m. fight that was so stressful and so unnecessary and led me to believe in my heart that there are ways of working differently and drawing boundaries and making good decisions that make the 5:30 fight for a lot of people irrelevant. A productive person is someone who gets done what they need to get done 80% of the time. Did I say 100? No, because a productive person is not a perfect person. A productive person gets done what they need to get done and knows what they need to do tomorrow. And they don't feel like they have to manage it all mentally. They approach the day knowing this is what I have on my calendar, this is what I have on my task list. I have time for processing email. I'm going to go forward, and superstar, rock star performance is having those days 4 out of 5 work days per week. But not perfection, because perfection is not productive. Processing email is my phrase for making decisions on email, getting it moved on. When you process something, you transform it from one form to another. So with email, we either quick respond and delete, because we don't need to let things pile up in our inbox. We quick respond and delete what was sent to us, or we say this is a business record or it's reference material, and we drag it to a foldering system that we've created so that we can reference or pull that email up later. So delete, drag to a folder, or the third is transform the email into an action item there's lots of great task management tools that you can forward an email to your task management tool, and the task management tool will say when you need to act on it. We are thinking that, number one, the inbox is a storage facility. I see so many of my clients treating their email inboxes like a storage facility because your email inbox is so overwhelming. So much is coming in every hour, every day, and it just piles and piles and piles. And people just leave it there. A lot of my clients just are leaving their inboxes to let them grow. Meanwhile, their stress is growing, their feeling of accomplishment is going down, and they don't trust themselves or other people to communicate well. So processing email is getting it out of the inbox. The inbox is a train station, not a storage facility. Emails need to get on the train and get out of there. So getting it moved on, moving your process forward, responding quickly when you need to, and being able to task something for later on when it's not immediately urgent. That's processing email. Productivity is no one-size-fits-all approach. And by the way, when I have seen 10,000 plus email inboxes, I ask several questions. Question number 1, are you as responsive as you need to be to incoming email? And if they say yes, check. Second question I ask is, are you complying with your company's records retention policies? Usually I get a blank stare at that one, so probably not, because records retention is how long we need to keep certain business records. And third, I ask them, can you find the information you need when you need it within, say, 30 seconds? And if they answer no to all three questions, they have a problem. And it's indicated by the 10,000 unread emails. But more than that, they have a functionality problem. They can't find what they need. They're not as responsive as they need to be. Action items are probably getting lost in that haystack of information. And someday, and I hope not for their sake, someday they may be faced with a records retention request with a legal hold order, and then, oh goodness, what a mess they have. The first question I will ask a new coaching client is, how many unread emails are in your inbox? It's an indicator, not necessarily a total problem. It's an indicator of a larger problem. So a new client, I will say, how many unread messages do you have in your inbox? On occasion, they will say, 10,000. To me, that indicates an issue that we need to probe further. A person who needs to develop better habits with their email, they can often start by practicing on what's already there. Looking at the messages that are in their inbox and saying, okay, I'm going to practice getting things out of this inbox. Now, there's a methodology called Inbox Zero, which is great. It's lovely, but it's often impossible for people to do more than once a week, particularly if they have hundreds of emails coming in per day. But if a person wants to get better at processing email, they must practice processing email. They need to force themselves to make decisions instead of, oh, I'll come back to that later. Oh, I'm not ready for that now. Oh, I'll respond to that later. There is no tomorrow. When it comes to email management, there's no tomorrow. And because all tomorrow brings is more email. And what happens, how the email inbox is structured by default, is that there's the most recent stuff on top. So it's last in, first out, which is not a principle of productivity. A person with a large inbox can lose things that are very important amidst the spam and the contacts from vendors and contacts from salespeople, and then they can't find it again. So how a person gets productive with email is by practicing on their current inbox, going through, forcing themselves to make one of those decisions, and knowing that an email is not processed until it's gone from the inbox. When you get down to an inbox that is well managed, that is small, either inbox zero or inbox one screen, whatever the goal is, there is such a feeling of accomplishment that you are not missing something, that you have made decisions, and you can handle or tackle the next thing to come. A resumption lag is the time period between the end of an interruption and when you get back on track. It is a cognitive time frame where you say, okay, there was a ding email came, and I get interrupted, and I look at that email and I go, that's just a quick reply. So I'll quickly reply to it. And then I have to sit there and say, where was I? That resumption lag can be anywhere from 30 seconds if you're having a really good day to 25 minutes if you get completely down a rabbit hole to never. The resumption lag is something we strive to minimize by turning off all notifications of incoming email and practicing good techniques to improve focus. The advice that I would give for managing email alerts, notifications, whether they come in from your computer or a mobile device, is turn them off. Turn them off. Imagine a person who receives 300 email messages per day. That is 300 bing bong buzz that takes their attention away from the important task at hand to whatever has come in via email. And we have control over those notifications. Now, by default, Microsoft Outlook is pre-installed to do everything but stand up and dance the cha-cha when we receive an incoming message. But there are ways to go into the options of any email management program, turn off the notifications, turn off social media notifications, both on our computers as well as our mobile devices. If we turn off notifications on our computers, but leave them on our mobile devices, we are cheating. We're cheating because they're still there. The phone is still vibrating on the side of your desk. So my number one recommendation is email. Go in and process it on your time frame. Allow yourself, give yourself the gift of focus by working your task list. And then when you get to a stopping point, process email, and then go back to the important work that you are hired and paid to do. Task management is, by definition, getting things out of your head and doing them in some sort of priority order. I believe in time-based task management prioritization, not necessarily high, medium, low, ABC. I believe that people should put tasks ordered by the day they want to do something on them. I call it the due date. So tasks are ordered by due date, and that way we are not overloading or overwhelming ourselves with a long task list that we feel we need to tackle every single day. The effects of overchecking your email. First of all, Good Technologies has found that people on average contribute an additional 8 hours of work per week in checking their email after business hours. So in terms of some semblance of life-work balance, checking our email means we are never checked out of work. We are constantly available. And what that can lead to, and this is a thing that my clients sometimes struggle with, it's being over-responsive to emails. If we are constantly checking our email, then we can easily respond to an email at 9:43 p.m. Then that teaches people, if you email me at 9:43 p.m., I got you. I'll respond. And they think, oh, I'm just going to expect a response from Melissa whenever I email her. So we want to be appropriately responsive to our email, not instantly responsive to our email. And the psychological implications of overchecking email are increased stress, decreased satisfaction, and an overall feeling of just being overwhelmed and never able to disconnect. Setting good boundaries is so important for not only workplace productivity, but also life-work balance. And one of the things that I ask coaching clients is, when do you start working? In the mornings, when do you end work? Because I want to get a sense of their already existing boundaries. And you probably can guess most of them cannot name their end time because it never ends. When I was a child, there was a cartoon called The Flintstones on TV. It was one of my favorites. And the opening sequence of The Flintstones was Fred on a dinosaur at the rock construction site, and the whistle goes toot toot, and he goes, everybody say it with me, yabba dabba doo, and he slides down the tail of the dinosaur into his car and he leaves work. We don't have that toot toot anymore. Our mobile devices have allowed us to be always on, always available. We must set our own boundaries for work, because our companies don't tend to do it for us. We must say, I process email up until this time, and then I am a spouse, partner, parent, person, whatever it is. We must set those boundaries ourselves. Our employers rarely, if ever, do it for us. It's hard to say when the transition from being on a shift clock to having no clock happened. But I'll bet if you ask individuals when that happened for them personally, most of them, me included, will say, oh, it's when I got my first phone that would check my email. I was a corporate executive at a health insurance company, and I got issued a BlackBerry with a keyboard on it, and it was a status symbol. It was, if you had your company issued device, ooh, you had arrived. And with that feeling of pride came a dark side of, oh no, now this thing comes home with me and I have to check it all night. I think it was when we started being very easily able to bring our email with us that we transitioned from people with boundaries to people who are always on. The number one impact that my clients see after developing their productivity skills is a sense of calm, a sense of focus, and no more waking up in the middle of the night going, "Ah, I forgot to do X." So it's more psychological, especially at first. And then over time, they realize, I am getting so much more done in less time than I've ever worked before in my life. It's the very annoying old adage of work smarter, not harder. Annoying, true, but working differently, working more productively, having good boundaries has both benefits to your business, your organization, and that you don't miss those incoming emails. You get things done when you say you're going to get them done. And to the individual who finds, hey, I actually can sign out. I can check out of work and it's okay. And I can be a more well-rounded person who is less likely to burn out or quit my job because it's just too much. I work with people, I coach them at all stages of their career, early, mid, late, bordering on retirement. People early in their career often feel an internal sense of, I've got to wear myself out or I will get nowhere. Younger clients, simply by rules of age, often have fewer outside work commitments. But that's not always true. And they feel, oh, it's just fine for me to work extra hours. And if it's fine for them, there's no judgment that I should impose. There is not a hard and fast rule on a person must work X hours per week and no more or no less in order to be productive. So early in a career, we may be more willing to exert extra time and extra energy toward our jobs. Do we have to? Not necessarily. I believe that people at all career stages should and can apply productivity skills, can make decisions, can be very intentional with their time and task management. And their careers will go beautifully. We don't have to exhaust ourselves, no matter what age or stage of our careers we are at. Let me tell you a story of a group of executives who, when I worked with all 5 of them, each of them told me the same thing. And here's what they told me. The CEO of this company expects an under 30-minute reply to any and all emails at any and all hours. All 5 of them told me this. And I was like, wow, that's very difficult to work within that. They said, yep, but there is no option. If I want to continue working here, I must respond in under a half an hour. And he oftentimes emails us at 1 and 2 in the morning. So I braced myself for a conversation with the CEO, and I looked at him and I said, tell me about this 30-minute turnaround time on emails that you need from your executive team. Blank stare. What 30-minute turnaround time are you talking about? This was some corporate myth that had been perpetuated amongst this group of people who told me, Melissa, everything you're saying is great, but it doesn't work for me. It's too perfect of a scenario because we have this 30-minute. They had never stopped to ask, what are your expectations? They had just let this story perpetuate, and it had been perpetuating for 5+ years. These people had been exhausting themselves and leaving the organization. Others had left the organization because of this misconception. Is there such thing as a perfect work environment where you never have to work overtime? Absolutely not. There are times all of us have to work through the weekends or after hours, but it depends on a couple of things. Number one, if you're okay with that. I had one client, an attorney, who said, I do billable hours. 80 hours a week is my goal. Right now I'm working 100. I want to get it down to 80. Fine. That's his goal. So people who are working lots of hours during the week, if they're fine with it, I'm fine with it. Things may change in their life and they'll become less fine with it, but it's not my judgment to impose. The second thing I would discuss with a person who says, Melissa, this is all just pie in the sky. Doesn't apply to me, doesn't apply to my workplace because we are expected to do X, Y, and Z. I would say, are you sure? Have you verified? Have you discussed response expectations? Have you discussed accessibility expectations? Too often we make assumptions about how often we need to process email. And again, we need to be appropriately responsive to incoming email, not necessarily instantly responsive. Companies are setting new expectations for workers. Not all the time, but what I am seeing more often that is such a good development is an emphasis on self-care from companies who are realizing that workers burning themselves out is bad for business. That workers who never take their paid vacation, workers who are responding to emails at 2 o'clock in the morning, that these are not necessarily company beneficial behaviors. And I think we're slowly moving toward the direction of companies monitoring and making sure that workers are taking care of themselves. They're providing wellness benefits, but true self-care doesn't necessarily take place in the company exercise room. Self-care is a culture set from leadership that says we are going to have boundaries. I have boundaries because it starts with a leader who has their own boundaries and communicates that boundaries are important to the people with whom they work. It's contagious. So a leader who is responding to emails at 2 o'clock in the morning is also contagious. The tone needs to be set from the top. Digital pollution is the absolutely overwhelming nature of digital media that are hitting us every time we look at our phones or open our computers. It is being copied on every message someone sends. It is someone hitting the reply all button like it's candy. It is newsletters we didn't sign up for. It is some mailing list we don't know how we possibly got on, but somehow this person or this industry has decided that we're their target market and they want to contact us dozens of times a week. Digital pollution results in a feeling of helplessness and a complete distrust of incoming digital media. And it's understandable that we mistrust incoming digital media. We're told, don't click links from unknown senders. It's likely a phishing scam. We are on Facebook and see our friends saying, don't accept a friend request from me. I've been hacked. Digital pollution results in a lack of connection between people because we have to approach our email inboxes with a barrier, with a wall, with armor against our time being wasted or something more malicious. The pandemic has had many results, mostly bad, but I'll talk about one silver lining of the pandemic, and that is that we have gotten so much more accustomed to video-based communication tools, which is great. We have achieved in 1 year what it would have taken a decade to accomplish with the normal corporate gears turning. I have coached clients to improve their productivity strictly using digital communications and web conferencing for the past 7 years. And no longer do I have to tell these clients, this is how you use Zoom, because everybody knows now. The one silver lining to this pandemic is that we have learned the value of connection and the importance of being creative, being intentional, being personal with our connections. The pandemic's impact on productivity has been really interesting. People who once thought they could muscle their way through their email inbox are now realizing I'm working from home. There are different distractions here. I need to do things differently. People doing remote work has changed how we process our email. It has changed how we meet with each other. The pandemic has, to some extent, reinforced knowledge that we have always had about productivity. People working from home by choice, research has shown for years that is a key component to people being optimally effective working from home. I also believe that the pandemic has opened our eyes to, as companies, as business owners, to the fact that seat in the chair is not essential for every position. I think remote work is not going anywhere. I think that hybrid work will be more accessible to the American workforce. The cautionary tale that I would give a post-pandemic workforce is you still need to have boundaries. Your boundaries are even more important when your laundry room is right next to your office. When it is so easy after dinner to slip upstairs and get online with your colleagues. We can work from home and have better life-work balance, or we can work from home and everything just dissolve into one amorphous blob of work and personal, and that would be sad. The impact of spam email on both workplace productivity as well as an individual's well-being cannot be understated. We learn, because of spam email, to ignore incoming messages. We learn frustration. We learn distrust. We learn that we must be very skeptical every time we open an incoming message. That anger, that lack of trust, that lack of connection makes us approach emails that actually are important and relevant and directed at us with the same skepticism and distrust and anger. I have seen so many people angry, frustrated over email, and it is partially due to spam. We are no longer fooled by an email that says, "Dear Melissa," because we know that's a field that says insert first name. Personalized emails are meaningless to us anymore. And companies practicing that are trying through volume, just sheer volume, to get some bites on the hook. And people are frustrated, less likely to engage. Right now, I personally, in my business, I am a business owner, I feel targeted by an industry whose job is to make phone calls and find warm leads for me. I receive dozens of these every week. Look at my face. I get angry just thinking about it. Can you imagine if that was your company and your industry making someone feel that way? I will tell you, I wouldn't take advantage of that industry if they paid me. I wouldn't work for them. It's so much anger from simple spam. And it causes overlap in email communication that's actually meaningful for us. Okay, it's been an hour. Let's see how many unread mails I have. I have 15. So 10 emails came in. That's pretty good. A lot of my clients, I'll have an hour-long coaching session with them, and they have to just shut down their Outlook because it's between 40 and 60 that are arriving in their inbox. So, and especially if they have not turned off their notifications of incoming email, we will not have a productive meeting, I can promise you that. I was on a panel discussion for a group of colleges about 7 years ago. And the last question the moderator asked was not anything that we had been prepared to answer, so it was the gotcha question. On this panel, the gotcha question came, and the gotcha question was, I want you to make a big prediction about technology in the next 10 years. So 7 years ago, I was asked on a panel to make a prediction about technology in the next 10 years. My prediction was email is either going to go away completely in favor of a better communication tool, or it's going to change so profoundly that we won't even recognize it. We have 3 years left to see if my prediction comes true.